Hello, welcome to the 15th tutorial of learning programming with JavaScript. In this, we're going to learn the basics of arrays. Arrays are lists of objects that are stored in a specific order that you can access by their index or address. You'll also notice here, we're doing this tutorial in the console again. This is because we're not really going to be writing any actual program. We're just going to be experimenting with some stuff, and in the console I can easily show you what data is actually being stored in what. So to jump right into this, we're going to create a new variable. We're going to create A. You can create a new empty array just by doing new array like this. Doing that, and then outputting A, you'll be able to see here we have an empty array now with length 0. No one really does this though, because there's the short form with the square brackets like this. So this will do the exact same thing, creating an empty array, and it's a lot shorter way of doing it. And the reason people normally do this is because the square brackets can also be used to add in entries at the beginning. So this 1, 2, 3 will create an array with the list of numbers 1, 2, 3. Now doing this, you can see if you open up our array, we've got 1, 2, 3 at each of the indexes 0, 1, 2. So 1 is at the index 0, 2 is at the index 1. That can be kind of confusing, but this is the way computers work, indexing things starting at 0 instead of 1. Now, these can store strings as well, not just numbers. You can put any objects in an array. So you can see here, now we have an array with A, B, C. And the useful thing about arrays is that you can access these by their numbers. So you can see here doing A square bracket 0 will give us A, and A square bracket 2 will give us C, which is each of the values at the index in the array. There is also the length variable. If you do a.length, you can see it outputs 3, the number of objects in the array. This allows us to do some very powerful stuff, like do a for loop like this through the array. You'll notice here that it's going from 0 up to the a.length, so it's looping through each of the indexes. So then each time it runs this, I is going to be equal to one of the indexes, and we're going to output with console.log a square bracket I. So this will loop through and output each of the values. You can see it outputs A, B, C. So strings are actually arrays. If you recognize here, A, B, C could actually be thought of like a string, a list of letters. Now I'm going to show you about the functions that are provided with strings in JavaScript. The push function here, you can see if we do a push D, we'll now add D to the end of the array. So this is how we can just keep adding on new objects to the end of the array. Now if we want to remove it, there is the splice function. So to remove the first value, A, you would do index 0 because A is at index 0. And then 1 to say we're going to delete 1, we're going to delete A. 1 is the count of deletion. If we did 2, it would delete A and B, for example. Now, splice can also be used to add back in objects. So if we wanted to add A back in, we would do index 0 again, but then we would do 0 as the delete count, and then as a third argument, we would pass in A to say we're going to insert that. Now you can see it inserts A at index 0. This has been a very brief introduction to arrays. There is so much you can do with arrays. They open the door to rows of memory, lookup tables, maps. So it's going to take a while to cover all the materials in them, but I think in this you should have enough to get started. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.